Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. So, let's start with Julian. Now, I've talked about this before, about how over a period of time, I have not become Julian's biggest fan. I just felt like they just started to slowly break down his character and just turn him into somebody that I don't even recognize. Well, I know a lot of people can sit there and look at Julian's situation and be like, well, because of this happened, he did this. Because of that happened, he did whatever. And the only time that I could sit there and think about what Julian did as a result to something else was when Olivia threatened Leo. Which is why he actually held a knife to Alexis's throat. And people always sit there and jump on him for that specific thing. And I'm like, well, he didn't do it out of malice. And what I'm going to sit there and talk about today is it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to happen, but it happened for a reason. And this is pretty much with Cyrus and Julian. They're talking, and Cyrus is like, well, it's time to pay up, buddy. You know, I held up my end of the bargain, and now you're going to do the same. And then he brings out the letter. He's like, so you have to do what I say, or this letter goes to the Sunny. And he's like, listen, I have a Jason Morgan problem. You're going to take care of that problem for me. Now, when the commercial break happened, I was sitting there thinking, alright, is Julian really going to do something to Jason? Because that's going to break Sam's heart. And this will fall right in line with Julian's going to do something to save his own skin, even if that means throwing, Sam's husband under the bus. Probably literally. So, he threatens him, and he threatens him like, listen, if you don't take care of Jason, or if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, because I'm not going to actually incriminate myself, if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, well, you know, this letter, do I really have to kind of spell it out for you? And Julian was like, listen, I got to sit there and find an alternative. And he was like, well, Taggart's alive. He's like, listen, if you switch the deal around and you get me clear of this, I'll give you some information that you'll need. And then that's when he's like, Taggart's alive. And I don't know how much that's going to change of Julian's situation as far as Cyrus is concerned. It might, because this way Cyrus doesn't have to sit there and worry about any smoke coming towards his way, and at the same time, he keeps Sunny, in check. So instead of him just solving the Jason Morgan problem, he just shuts them down completely for a while. And, yeah. Now I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you betrayed Taggart and stuff like that, and you went back on your deal, and yada 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 yada. And while that's very true in a lot of ways, that he did go back on his deal, he did betray Taggart, he did put Trina, in crosshairs and so on and so forth. I want to go on record by sitting there saying, I want to sit there and literally say that the reason why he's doing that is because it was either Taggart or Jason, and why he has no qualms about taking out Jason. That's Sam's husband, and he's trying to do his best for his daughter by not taking out Jason. Because he could just sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to do it, and then when it comes back, I'll sit there and say, well, they threatened me. So, on a list of bad things that he's done, while this is still bad, it's a lot worse the alternative was a lot worse. And I'll say that. Now, let's talk about, well, what are we going to call them? The Disney crew? That is Cam, Trina, Jocelyn, and Dev. Now, let's talk about Dev and Trina and Jocelyn, because Trina and Jocelyn were sitting there studying outside, even though it's cold and they have tons of other places they can study at. They chose to be outside for some odd reason. So they're outside studying, and, Dev was like, you got room for one more. Now I'm just like, I'm sorry, like, really? Like, you just going to just walk back in and just be like, hey, I want to be part of the gang after everything that you just said to Jocelyn and Trina? Are you serious? You either got, like, the stones of mountains, or you are just really stupid. And I'm guessing it's a bit of both. Now, granted, I will sit there and say, in Dev's defense, what he was saying was absolutely true. About both of them. About Trina and about Jocelyn. And about Cam. It was absolutely true. Didn't mean that they actually had to like it. And so, Trina and Jocelyn are just giving them the cold shoulder. And Trina pretty much just like, calls him out. Like, just goes in on him. He goes, she goes in on him. Jocelyn goes in, and Jocelyn, somebody in the bottom, in the comment section, said something that was really interesting. And this is about, Jocelyn being, somewhat of a tease. And not intentionally, but just the way that she comes across. And it could just be a naive sort of thing. But I don't know how much of that is true. But if that is, that could be part of Jocelyn's problem. But, Jocelyn's like, listen, I liked you at one point, and now I didn't. My feelings changed. And, things happen. And you know what? To her defense, people do change their minds, and 1 minute they're into somebody, and next minute they're not, and that is life, and it sucks, but it is what it is, She didn't do it intentionally to hurt you. She did apologize. She's not a malicious person. She's a human being. And because you didn't get what you wanted, you decided to act like a jerk to her. Now, again, to be fair, he is a human being also, and even though he missed his opportunity, he wanted to be with her, the fact that she rejected him, it still sucks. It still hurts. And the fact that you look at it, it's like, if I like someone, and they like someone else, but this person was not there kind of playing games for both of them, it's like, wow, I'm actually being a good guy, a good stand-up guy, and this dude's just sitting there playing y'all both like a bunch of fiddles, and instead of you being like, hey, I'm the better choice, you're going to go out with a guy who's, well, acting like a jackass to both of y'all. So I can understand his feelings and his frustration. And with that being said, they're both going back and forth. And, this is when Cam shows up, and Cam defends Dev. Like, he comes in, he's like, yo, listen, I get y'all are upset, but you know what? Life is short. He says something along the lines of life is short and this, that, and third. And Trina, it's out of both of Trina and Jocelyn, I swear it's like Trina has the most brains between both of them. And so Trina picks up on like, what's going on with you? You alright? Like, you good? And, Cam tries to brush it off, we're in high school, we're about to leave, and friendship, and yada, yada, yada. And so, Jocelyn's like, listen, we'll pick this up tomorrow when everyone's cooled off. They all split, go their separate ways. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I didn't notice that until it's the end, but, so, we're all splitting up, and this is after Cam got there. So he just took an Uber for nothing? Whatever. So anyway, they all split up, and, Dev thanks, Cam for, having his back or whatever. And Cam is like, we're all friends. And this is where Dev feels guilty, for writing that letter and causing the rift between, Cam and Jocelyn. And while he's doing that flashback, he's sitting there smiling and laughing when, like a villain. And, he feels guilty about it now. And yeah, that pretty much ends that. Now, before, you got, 1 second. Now, before, Cam was at the house, he was walking downstairs, and this when you had Liz and Franco talking about setting up appointments and stuff, for a consultation on what to do next as far as his tumor is concerned. Now, Cam walks downstairs, and he says a joke along the lines of no one's died yet or anything like that, and he looks, and he sees both Franco and Liz being really serious, so he starts asking questions, and he gets freaked out when they're not giving him an answer. And finally, Franco's like, listen, he tells him the truth. This is... Okay. I wanna just sit there and say right up, I don't really have use for Cam, Dev, Trina, and Jocelyn. Okay? I look at them the same way that years ago when you had Dylan, Maxie, Georgie, Lucas, I didn't care about them either. Like, I really didn't care about them. To the point where I fast forward through their scenes. So I have very little use for their characters. I feel like they're just more fluff and just, fluff. With that being said, I feel bad for Cam, because Cam is upset. He's like 3 seconds away from just bawling. And, he talks to Franco, and, Franco's like, listen, we're gonna find the next steps, and we're gonna figure it out. And, Cam's like, we're gonna fight, we can't lose you. And before he just loses it, he walks out. Now, the reason why I feel bad for him is because this isn't the first time that he's lost someone close to him. Him and Oscar didn't exactly start off on the best of terms. But when Oscar died, Cam lost it. Even though they were rivaling for Jocelyn's affection, and they had the little bumps in the road, they were still cool and good friends, really good friends towards the end, at the end of the day. And now, he pretty much has to get ready to go through that again. So I genuinely feel bad for Cam in the situation. And that's pretty much all I'm going to really kind of go into that. Now, let's talk about Jason and Britt. So, Portia is there talking about another death that happened as a result to drugs. By the way, in the future, when I actually have more subs and I'm actually starting to get a paycheck from this, I'm not going to say drugs. I'm going to sit there and say euphemism. So, when that happens, just know that the euphemisms is still drugs. But with that being said, Portia's not there talking about the ODs or whatever that's going on. And, after she walks away, Britt gets upset, and I think she, hits her hand on a desk or whatever. I know a lot of people look at Britt like she's just this cold monster, the bridge, or whatever that they used to call her. But she is a woman that does have feelings, and she's not the wicked witch of the West. She does have sympathy. She's visibly upset, and Jason is just, I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of just lurking there. And, Britt walks into the corner, and she sits down, and Jason starts talking to her. And, at first Britt is like, oh, well, you need to sit there and tell your boss to stop lending all this drugs and cocaine and whatever. And that's when Jason tells her the story about Stone, and about how, he's not really for drugs. He's not about that life. He's done everything he could to keep drugs away from poor Charles. And before he really gets into that story, Britt is like, listen, a lot of stuff has changed. I don't remember drugs being this big of a problem in Port Charles. And that's when Jason's like, well, it hasn't been a big problem until, well, your boss got here. And now it's a problem. It's a problem here, it's a problem for Mercy. It's a problem. And it's your boss that's doing it. And he tells her that, listen, Cyrus is probably doing this at a hospital level, and that's the way he's getting in his product. And that's when Britt is like, so what are they doing? They're just holding a pharmacy downstairs in the secret basement or whatever? And, before she goes, she's like, I could just turn you in. What's to stop him from doing that? And Jason's like, well, I guess we'll find out. And I felt like, for Jason, that was pretty much, a gamble. As far as trusting Britt. And maybe because Jason is a good judge of character. You can see that while Britt has her past, things that she's probably not proud of, at the end of the day, Britt isn't an evil, malicious woman. And I guess he feels that towards the end, she's going to do the right thing. I guess Jason looks at her, about Spencer and stuff like that, like if she's compassionate enough to feel love and sympathy, then she has a conscience. And with that being said, let's talk about... Man, this was a lot of people. I'm just thinking about that. Let's talk about... What do we call them? The new Fearsome Four or whatever? I say that name because that was the name that, Liz and Nicholas and Emily, or not Emily, Gia and Lucky used to be. And now it's Michael and Chase and Willow and Sasha. So, they're all at the hospital and they're all sitting there, you got the three of them sitting there wondering, beating themselves up over stuff that they could have did to prevent Sasha from taking those drugs, and how they didn't know and they should have known. And, well, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say this. If anyone should be beating himself up, it's Chase. Because Chase is a detective. He deals with people and stuff like that on a daily basis. Okay? None of them should be... Those two should not be beating themselves up over. Themselves up. Should be him. Because here's the thing. If Chase didn't see it, then y'all two are sure as hell not going to be able to see any signs if she was using or anything like that. So why they beat themselves up, and they go through all this emotional journey or whatever, they all split up. You got Chase, you got Willow. And then, I was actually going to say Laura Wright. You have Carly and you have Michael, and they're talking for a little bit. And, Portia comes in, and Portia's like, listen, she had a mild heart attack. These next couple of days is going to sit there and decide if she lives or dies, and she probably will be going through her drugs. So when Michael goes in there, Michael and, about to say Laura again, and Carly goes in there, Michael is being apologetic, he's feeling really down, and he's like, I wish there's something I could have done. He's just beating himself up. Carly looks at that, and she's just like, I can't take this, and she tells, here's the thing, when she's outside, she's sitting there trying to counsel Michael the best way she can, this isn't your fault, you couldn't have prevented this, you wouldn't have known, no one would have known, there's nothing you can do, just, and a lot of ways trying to be a good mother, except for the fact that she is keeping the secret from him, but, she's doing her best to sit there and try to, console him, but it only worked so far, and her heart was just breaking, and finally she's like, listen, and she tells him the truth, she's like, Sasha didn't cheat on you, and the next episode is, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be another one of those, why did you lie to me, sort of episodes. Now, it's sort of the same thing with Chase and Willow. You know, Willow is blaming herself. She's like, you know, if I would have stepped back, if I would have did this, if I would have did that, you know, I knew that, you know, Sasha was still in love with Michael, and maybe if I would let them reconcile, she wouldn't have been in this position. And a lot of this, you know, if I could have done this differently, then, you know, X, Y, and Z would have happened. And finally, Chase is like, yo, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. We never actually cheated. I never actually cheated on you with Sasha. And, you know, this is when we get into tomorrow's episode, when they both, Carly and Chase, tells Michael and Willow the reasons of why they did what they did. And to say all hell is going to break loose is an understatement. Now, the last thing that I'm going to sit there and talk about, because this is literally the last part of this episode, is Sonny, Nicholas, and Ava. So, you know, Nicholas and Ava come over to Sonny's to get Avery for their sleepover. Now, Nicholas makes a call, well, Nicholas takes a call from Spencer, and Ava and Sonny talk. They talk about Ryan, and how, you know, well, it's kind of weird that Ryan had something to tell me, and now he doesn't. And you're just, like, what's going on with you? So you talk back and forth, and, you know, at one point, you know, Sonny's like, well, I'm not saying that you did it, but you could have hired somebody to take out Ryan before he told whatever he needed to tell. You know, so they go back and forth. And at one point, oh, and this isn't the last part, now I remember. At one point, Sonny threatens Ava and is like, listen, you need to tell me the truth, because if you lie to me, it's not going to end well for you. And that's when Nicholas walks in. Nicholas is like, you know, I'm the one that hired, you know, to hit on Ryan. And, I guess all hell loose is going to break loose at that point. Now, the last thing I do want to sit there and talk about is Taggart, because Taggart, I feel like this guy is playing chicken. By the way, and before I go, I feel like there's more to that conversation with Sonny and Ava, and I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember Sonny threatening Ava, and then Nicholas coming to her rescue. And I think that's what I'm going to take away from that. This is what they're thinking about. I was like, you know, I didn't really do too much of a good job. I just remember them talking. They were talking for a good minute, and then, you know, talking about whatever secret that Ryan had, and how you're being really squirmish about it, and you need to tell me whatever it is. Otherwise, you know, and Nicholas, you know, came in and was being, well, Nicholas actually. He's always been the white knight, the person to come in and chivalrous and Prince Charming and everything like that. He literally is a prince, so he comes in and he takes, you know, the heat for Ava. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, again, is, well, Taggart playing chicken. So he is walking around, you know, he's looking at Portia and keeping an eye on her. And then, well, Epiphany yanks him into one of the conference rooms, and she's like, what are you doing? And so she gives him the riot act about how playing chicken and somebody could spot you, what are you doing? And, you know, Taggart's like, you know, listen, I want to make sure that Portia's safe, that my little girl's safe. And they get into it. And this is when, well, Epiphany opens up about mob violence in 1 second. This is when Epiphany opens up about her son that got killed about a decade ago, Stan. Now, if people don't know who Stan is, Stan was Jason's tech guy. You know, Jason is Sonny's tech guy before Spinelli. And, I don't remember, I remember the episode when Stan did get killed. I don't remember exactly how, but I think it was an ambush that was meant for, I think Jason at the time. And yeah, it took a while before Epiphany recovered, and she's still. I mean, let's be honest. You don't really ever get over losing a child, you know. And so she, you know, she's like, I understand that you want to sit there and protect your daughter, whatever, but listen, you get spotted. All that hard work that me and Jordan did is going to go out the window for nothing, for no reason. So, like, get out of Dodge. Stop hanging around the hospital. Stop getting yourself into positions where you can get caught. Because think about it. You know, the fact that Epiphany spotted him so easily, that could have easily been Cyrus. He works at the hospital. But, you know, listen, I get that Taggart's trying to do the best that he can to protect his loved ones and his daughter and stuff like that, but, I mean, you know, Sonny said he would do his best to sit there and try to protect, you know, at least Trina. I don't know exactly how much he can protect Portia now that I think about it, but, you know, Jason makes his freaking visits there. I'm pretty sure he can keep an eye on her. I mean, my point is that, like, Sonny's doing his best to protect his family. And Taggart constantly being there to, you know, look over them, while it may be kind and sweet, it's just doing more harm than good if he gets caught. But I guess that doesn't really matter at this point because Cyrus already knows, and it's just kind of a moot point. And with that being said, yes, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. I know that this came out super late. I said to some other review, but I had a dentist appointment, and my mouth was pretty numb. And I didn't want to sit there and do it like, you know, mouth all numb, and it wasn't in too much pain, but the point was, it just would have came out like crap, and I don't like putting out videos that just, well, that comes out like crap. So apologies, but I do thank you for the people who've been watching my videos, even if you've been watching the next day. And yeah, listen, I don't say this too often, but if you can share the video, that'd be really, really helpful. Because again, I want to sit there and do this. I'm gonna ramble for a little bit, so I apologize. I do want to do this to a point where that I'm getting some sort of, you know, money from YouTube and stuff like that. And this way, I can sit there and do this a little bit more, and do my other job a little bit less. Because I enjoy doing this, you know. I always feel like, you know what, listen, even if it's really late, and I watch General Hospital, I'm also talk about it, because I'm already going to watch it, so, like, whatever, you know. And I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy talking about it a lot more than, well, I actually thought I was. I still think about that first video that I did about Nina. And I was so angry in the beginning. And then towards the end I was like, well, I feel better. Maybe I should go do this YouTube thing tomorrow. But with that being said, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What's your thoughts? New Lucas. Brock TV is pretty funny. I will sit there and say that I did watch his review, because it's weird. He put out his review like 6 minutes after mine. And so I was watching his review, and it was actually pretty funny. Some of the stuff he was saying was really spot on. Particularly about Sam, because I think we can both kind of agree on that whole Sam thing. But again, I'm rambling. With that being said, if you could, please share the video. Have a good day. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are. I will catch you in the next video.